Happy morning, friends. Here's yours, Dr. Ajanta. Welcome to day 31 session. Today we are just going to see about Python control statements, and that control statements are related to break, continue, and pass. As you may know, loops in Python are used to iterate repeatedly over a block of code. But at times you might want to shift the control once a particular condition is satisfied. So this is where control statements in Python come into the picture. So control statement in Python are used to control the flow of execution of the program based on the specified condition. So Python supports three type of control statements. One is break, continue, and pass. And break is exactly terminate the current loop. Use the break statements to come out of the loop instantly. And continue, skip the current iteration of the loop and move to the next iteration. Pass, do nothing, ignore the condition in which it occurred and proceed to the run the program as usual. And see here, dear friends, loops iterate over a block of code until the test expression is false. But sometimes we wish to terminate the current iteration or even the whole loop without checking test expressions. The break and continue statements are part of a control statement that helps you to understand the basic of Python. Let me just see about the first one, Python break statement. In Python, the break statement provides you with the opportunity to exit out of the loop when an external condition is triggered, and the program control transfer to the next statement following the loop. If the break statement is inside the nested loop, the loop inside another loop, the break statement will terminate only the innermost loop. You will put the break statement within the block of the code under your loop statement, usually after a condition, that is if statement, and this statement can only be used in for loop and while loop. Let me just have a look of how the break statement is in for loop and while loop. See here, dear friends, we are just having the for loop here, and if a condition is there and you have just provided a break here and it just goes to the outside for the loop, and when if it is for it is outside for the loop, and once for all if it is just going outside for a loop, it just makes the iteration of the next one. And here when in while loop, what it just does, it just makes the break statements and goes out of the while loop, and here what would be the exact test condition. Yeah, that's we want to discuss it. Yeah, kindly just have a look of this, dear friends. See, in this first example we are just seeing about a variable that is declared with a list 10, 30, 120 and 330, where here we are just having this for loop I in the number. So this list we want to just make it one by one. If I is greater than 100, you want to give a break and print current number is. And see here, dear friends, when just comes 10, yeah, it is just going to make, yeah, it is check for the condition, yeah, it is less than 100, so it just gives, yeah, current number is 10. And again for the next second iteration, it just check for the 30, yeah, current number is 30, it is going to. And when coming to 120, it is not going to print it, rather it just breaks the loop and comes out of it. There, here's the executed result here, dear friends. And the same look at an example that uses the break statement in a for loop. Okay, so see here, dear friends, number 0 is the exact one initiated, and for number in range, that is 10, and here number is equal to number plus 1, so it is just getting on iteration from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. And once if number equivalent 5, it has to break it and it has to go to the outer loop. Okay, it has to break the inner loop and it has to go to the outer loop, and again it just makes the iteration functionalities. So in the small program, the variable number n is initialized as 0. Then a for statement construct the loop as long as the variable is less than 10. So let I just execute and explain you detailedly. So then with the for loop, the number increments makes one by one with each pass, because of the number here it is number is equal to number plus 1. Then there is a if statement that presents the condition that if the variable number is equal to integer 5, then the loop will break. So within the loop is also a print function, that is print statement, that will execute with each iteration of the for loop until the loop breaks. So since it is after the break statement, okay, to see when we are out of the loop, we include one more final print statement outside for the for loop, outside for the for loop. So this shows that once the integer number is evaluated as equivalent to 5, the loop breaks as the program is told to do so with the break statement. So okay, next comes the nested break statement. See, actually, to terminate the nested loop, use a break statement inside the inner loop, for example. So here we are just having the same thing. Okay, so here what we want is we want to print from the range of 1 to 100, but if it is greater than or equal to 10, we are just going to have a break, and the outer loop of the for loop, it's just going to give you the completed statement. So till 0 to 10 it just comes, and when on coming to 11, that is the next iteration of 11, what it just do, it just makes us a complete. Okay, next there is a string sequence, dear friends. Kindly have a look of this. See, we iterate through string sequence where we check if the letter I upon letter is I, so upon which we break from the loop, and hence we see in our output that all the letters up till I gets printed. After that the loop terminates. Okay, so let I just execute. See here, dear friends, so it just makes the iteration one by one. So we just got the output of yes, st, and r. When coming for I, it just get that is terminated. Okay, next we just have one more example as print the letters in hello world. Okay, one by one until the letter R is reached using break statement in Python. Okay, so see here I have already given the commands for your better understanding, but anyhow, see here, dear friends, so for letter in hello world, here we are just giving the sequence directly, and if the letter is equal to R, character R is in the world. Okay, so that R, once if it reach, we have to get the break, we have to terminate it. So where we are, so once after making the break, okay, it is not going to print that letter, instead it's just going to make until letter R is printed. So see here, it is the output. So HELLOWO till that it was executed, and the last, instead of R, it just got terminated, and it prints the until letter R is printed. Okay, let me just make some input from the user. Okay, so enter an input, enter a word. So for I in A, for an example, if you are just providing whether the exact word I is equal to A, if print A is found. And here we are just having break, and we already know that for else. So once if we just finish the iteration of for, it has to enter into the else. So which we have already seen in our previous sessions. So in the else part, it just execute print A not found. Okay, so see here it is the output. Let I just make any word with a. Okay, let I just give my word. Okay, yeah, a is found. Okay, and again I just make an one more execution. A not found because the first letter is not, so a not found. Okay, fine. Next, let me just go for the next example, dear friends. See here, what is the thing is, let me just make use of while loop with break statement. Okay, and here we are just declaring a variables, that is the string variable, and with that we want to just get the length of the string. And here we just want to start the iteration, so we just initialize I is equal to 0, and we want to check for the size, which till that we have to reach the last character of that word. Okay, and if we are having any space, it has to get break, and if not, it just has to print it as it off. And see here, dear friends, we are having a space here, so we just only going to print the first word, and here it's the output. Okay, let me have one more thing. Here it is, we are just going to print a multiplication table of in the sense whatever the number you just provide, it is just going to have the multiplication table. And we have two loops, the outer loop and the inner loop. The outer for loop iterates the first 10 number using the range, and the second function and the inner loop prints the multiplication table for each number. So but if the current number of the both the outer loop and the inner loop is greater than 5, then terminate the inner loop using the break statement. Okay, so here this break statement is only for this inner loop inside the current functionality. So let I just execute it here. See here, dear friends, after 5 till 5 it is not a problem, it just makes 1 to 10, 1 to 10 of each. But when coming to 5, what it just does, it is not going for the first iteration, so rather than it just makes a from the 1 2 3 4 5 multiplications alone. Rather than that, after greater than 5 it just gets terminated. So for the 6 into 6 36, that is not displayed here. 7 into 6, it's not there. 8 into 6, 9 into 6, 10 into 6. So after both the things, after if it is both or I and j or greater than 5, yeah, here we have applied a break statement. Okay, next here a break statement in outer loop. Okay, so to terminate the outer loop, use a break statement inside the outer loop for. Okay, let me just with an example, and see here, dear friends, we have the same thing here. Two loops is there, one is outer loop and the inner loop. And the outer loop we are just having the iteration of 10 numbers, and the inner loop that makes the multiplication table of each other. But if the current number of the outer loop is greater than 5, then terminates the outer loop using the break statement. And here let I just execute. Only we are having the multiplication of till 5. Till 5 only we are just getting the multiplication table. Okay, let me just move on to the next one, dear friends. Here we are just having a list 3, 6, 12 and 9, and that list we are just going to take as a numbers one by one, where current number is I is in the sense 3, 6, 12 and 9, and skip below statement if number is greater than 10. So when it just comes to the number is greater than 10, that is 12, it would just get the skipping. Rather than that, it just goes to make the continuation of the another part. Okay, so let I just execute it. See here, if on coming to say 3, it just given us a 9, that is 3 into 3. And when just executing of 6, yeah, we just got the 6 into 6 as 36. But when on coming to 12, which is greater than 10, okay, here the square, it is not evaluated, rather than it just make the continue, and the current execution has been skipped, and it just falls to the next iteration. And what is the next iteration? Yeah, it is about the 9, and here the square of 9 is 81. Okay. Okay, in this example, you can use the continue statements to avoid deeply nested condition code, or to optimize the loop by eliminating frequently occurring cases that you would like to reject. So the continue statement causes a program to skip certain factors that come up within a loop, but then continue through the rest of the loop. So here this continue, it just skips this print a, and it just continue the rest of the loop by printing the end of the loop. Okay, let me just see the next example, dear friends. See here, program to show the use of continue statement inside loop. So here, what we are just making is, this program is same as the above, expect this thing as break statement that has been replaced with the continue here. And see here, we continue with the loop if the string of I not executing the rest of the block, and hence we see in our output, let I just execute, we just see it in our output. Say only if the I is there, it just skipping, that is, it is not executing the rest of the block, and hence we see in our output that except I, it just get prints only the I, it is not executing, and it just goes to the rest of the block. And next, there comes the uh, example, that is, here we are just having a range from 0 to here we are just having the range till 10, and if I is greater than 4, if I is greater than 4, it is just going to make use of ignored I and continue. So this statement is not reached if I is greater than 4. So till I is 4, that is equivalent to 4, it just makes, what is it? Processed. So processed 0, process 1, 2, 3, 4, till that 4, it just makes the processed. Later then it just goes for the ignored till the range 10. So let I just execute. See here, dear friends. So this if block would be executed only this condition is true, and here, see here, each and everything, it just get continued for the rest of all the blocks. And let me just see it with a program for hello world. We need the word to be that is ignored, and here which woe we just need it is, we are just having two woes here, there is hello in that, and woe it is that. And see here, dear friends, when just making this, if letter is e, then skipping print would making the letter and go to the next iteration. So h would be printed, and e would be skipped. If you want to make ever making this functionality as like skipping the wo, let I just execute here for the thing. See, uh, we are just getting, if it is wo, we are making it as an continue, and see here it is capital O, we are not giving a choice of small o. Okay, let I just make this as a small o, and I execute it. See here, dear friends, so there is a choice of whether it is a capital O or a small, that is in uppercase or in lowercase. So that is what the main thing here we have to note it. Okay, fine. Let me just move on to the next concept is a continuous statement. See, anyhow, we have just seen some examples in above thing. So the continuous statement is a jump statement which is used to skip execution of current iteration. After skipping, loop continues with next iteration. So we can use continuous statements only with for loop as well as while loop. And python in python actually it is typically only used within a if statement. Otherwise, the remainder of the loop we would never be executed. So see here, dear friends, this is how the exact continuous statements works. So here, if just makes any true condition, yeah, it just skips the exact remaining of the body and it just continue the iteration of the next loop. And if the condition is just true or false, if it is false, it's just going to exit the loop, or else again it just means for the continue. And when just making the continue working for loop and while loop, it is nothing much difference between to that of for loop or while loop. One and only things, the for loop here we are just having the sequence until it reaches the exact range or any other thing, it is the iteration is going to continue. And here in while loop, yeah, till it's satisfying this condition or the expression, the execution or the iteration continues. Okay, let me just move on to the continuous statements in while loop. Okay, so we can also use the continuous statements inside a while loop. And let me just have a example. See here, dear friends, let me have write a while loop to display each character from a string. And if the character is a space, if there is any space, then don't display it and move to the next character. So here what we just want to make it is, here we are just getting a character with some space, and here we are just going to use the if condition with the continuous statement to jump to the next iteration. So if the current character is a space, if the current character is space, okay, we can just give by function, or even though you can just equalize with a slash thing. And currently you can just make use of the escapes also. Here let me just make use of the function itself. Okay, so if the current character is space, then the condition evaluates to true, then the continuous statements will execute and the loop will move to the next iteration by skipping the remaining of the body. And here it is the exact example. Let I just execute. See here, dear friends, ART, and here it is a space, so it is removed, that is it is skipped, and it just move on to the next iteration and printing the HU. And again we have one more space, so once after all we received the exact characters without the space. Okay, friends, next we are just going to see about nested continue loops and continue statements in nested loops. So to skip the current iteration of the nested loop, you can use continuous statement, and you can just make use of that continuous statement inside the inner loop or outside the inner loop, sorry, outer loop. So let me just see both the examples one by one. The first one, let me just see by using the continuous statement inside the body, inside the inner loop. Okay, and see here, dear friends, we are just going to make use of the same function, that is a multiplication table. And here we are just going to make use of from the range 1 to 11 of each and every multiplication. And let me just make it with the inner loop, that is also 1 to 11. So here with this inner loop, when we just make that, it comes from 1 to 10 tables. So each and everything from 1 to 10, this multiplication table is going to be executed. And when coming, if j is equal to 5, okay, and when j is equal to 5, we are just going to have a continue statement here. See, we have the outer loop and the inner loop. That is I and J is there. And the outer loop iteration, the first 10 numbers, and the inner loop prints the multiplication table of each number. But if the current number of the inner loop is equal to 5, then skip the current iteration and move to the next iteration of the inner loop by using the continue statement. And here it is the execution, dear friends. Kindly have a note of it. That is, if we are having, that is, this is table of 1 2 3 4 5. Here we are just having, whereas inside that of fifth table, this exact, it just makes only the skip of the current condition, and it just prints the exact output. Okay, fine, dear friends. Let me just move on to the same thing by using the outer. And here outer, what we are just going to do is the outer loop iteration, the first 10 numbers, and the inner loop prints the multiplication table of each number. This we already know. But here, if the current number of the outer loop is even, okay, that is what the thing we are just going to have as a condition here in the if loop. If it is even, then skip the current iteration of the outer loop and moves the next iteration. So here what we are just making is, kindly have a note of this, dear friends. If it is an even, that is, here we are just going to have the multiplication table of 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So that is what from 1 to 11 ranges, we are just going to have only the odd number multiplication. And if we are just having the even, it is going to continue in the sense the current multiplication, that it is not going to happen as it is in outer loop. This inner process also, it is not going to happen. Okay, so it is just going to have a skip of it, the current, and it just prints the space, and it just moves on to the next iteration. So, and kindly have a note, if we skip the current iteration of an outer loop, the inner loop will not be executed for that iteration. That is how here it happened. Okay, because the inner loop is the part of the body of that outer loop. Yeah, we have already seen the example for the same thing, previous thing. Okay, fine. Let me just move on to the next one, Python parse statement. See, actually in Python, parse keyword is used to execute nothing. That is, it means when we don't want to execute code, the parse can be used to execute empty. So it is same as the name refers to. So in it just makes the control to pass by without executing any code, or even if we want to bypass any code, pass statement can be used. And it is used as a placeholder for future implementation of functions or loops or etc. Suppose we have a loop or a function that is not implemented yet, but we want to implement it in the future. They cannot have an empty body. So the interpreter would give an error. So we use the pass statement to construct a body that does nothing. And see here, dear friends, here we are just having that pass functionality. You can just make use of three tabs. One we can just make use of as directly providing as a pass sequence, or you can just make use of any function, empty function, or a class as well. But here we are just going to see only with the direct implementation of the thing. Kindly have a look of this, dear friends. Here the example is a list variable, that is month is equal to January, February, June, March, and April. Here what we are just making is for month in months, that is for MON in months. We want to make a pass, and we want to pass only the months. And here we are just going to do nothing, and just like that we want to print the everything. So here it is just going to print the elements whatever there in the list, just it. But see here, again we just want to make as one more example with some conditions. And see here, by using the pass statement in this program, we notice that the programs runs exactly as it would if there were no condition statement in this program. So the pass statement tells the program to disregard that condition and continue to run the program as usual. Okay, so see here, I execute the exact program. So and it just see for number in ranges to 10, so from 1 to 10 it just moves on. And when on, if the number is equal to 5, yeah, it is just going to do nothing, just as like the same thing, it is moving on to that. And if you want to make any conditions or any other thing, it just regards that conditions. That is what. Okay, so hope you just get an in informations related to the control statements relating with this break, continue, and pass. Anything do you need with the examples or anything, kindly comment it, dear friends. Thank you.